Can you just hear that bird song, Sharon?
Isn't it lovely? What's that? It's blackbird, isn't it?
It's blackbird, I can hear sparrows.
Yeah.
And look at the colour of that sky.
You don't often see it like that in this country, do you?
Isn't it stunning?
No clouds at all, just a couple of airplane trails, I think, contrails, and that's it. Beautiful day, beautiful day. So we're here in Hampshire and we're going to go for a walk and we're on the hunt for bluebells. It's that time of year, it's very, very beginning of May, so it's just perfect, isn't it?
So off we go. So look at where we are, Sharon. Look at all this fabulous wild garlic.
It's lovely, isn't it? Ramsons, aren't they? The old English for that is ramsons.
Oh, is that what it is? But look at the
Yes.
sunlight on it.
Good
And
for cooking because you can dig the bulbs up.
I'm going to turn around.
You were talking about making pesto, weren't you?
Wild garlic pesto is
Yeah.
just heaven.
Yeah.
Look at all the sunlight dappling through there.
Lovely, isn't it?
Just beautiful. Well, we've come out looking for bluebells, but come and see who we found.
Gorgeous.
Hello. Oh, you just want to be friends. You want to.
Hello, my darlings. Hello.
You want to be
I
loved.
haven't got anything to eat. Aren't you lovely? Look at these horns, Denise.
Aren't they beautiful?
What are they? Jacob's sheep?
The sheep.
The sheep. Well, I'm just looking at the lovely colours on them.
They're sheep-shaped sheep.
You sheep. Are you? Isn't she beautiful? Can we have some photographs of you? So Denise, if we look up, that's the tragedy of where we live today.
Oh.
Look at that. These are ash trees and this is the ash dieback.
Oh, how sad.
And they're in a bad way, aren't they?
They are pretty sad, yeah.
And the biggest problem in the countryside is where they're next to footpaths, public footpaths, because the disease actually causes the trees to just drop limbs. They can be dangerous, so it's costing a fortune right around the country.
Oh, how sad.
Would you like to see where we are? I'm just going to pan you round. Listen to the bird song. Isn't it just amazing?
Beautiful woodland.
Robin, can hear a robin singing his heart out up there.
The sunshine streaming through the
That's
trees.
lovely, isn't it? We were just saying as we were walking along that even if we didn't... Oh, falling over the brambles, look at that.
I'll hold on to you, make sure
Hey!
you don't fall in the ditch.
If I disappear, you'll know where I am. We were just saying that when we're together like this, it's worth every little bit of being a brush dipper because it gives us the chance to spend time in each other's company. And I hope actually, watch all this, it's
Mind the
bricky,
bricks,
look.
yeah.
It also means that we get time to spend with you, of course. And although we don't really know where you are, we know you're all across the world. We know we've got friends in Australia and in America and Canada. It's at Ireland, don't forget Ireland. It's lovely just to spend time with you and to be here together. Weather notwithstanding, talking about weather.
Whether we fall over,
And whether we fall over, and whether we just suddenly disappear. Who knows? Would you like to see where we're walking? So we're just coming over this little bridge here. I can walk a little faster now because I can look where I'm going and not run the risk of falling over. Just coming across a little bit of a river here, not much. Of course, if you imagine in full spate, that's quite something. But this is a tributary of the River Rother. I find that so hard to say.
The River Rother.
The River Rother, yes. I just find that so difficult. But as we come up over this rise, you will see why we've come for our little walk today, because it's very, very beautiful up here. This is the woodland belonging to friends of ours. But look, this is why we're here. Can you see the bluebells? Can you see the bluebells yet? All around us, everywhere. And when you come up here of a summer evening, when the sun's been shining, it's full of rabbits and they scamper away out of the way as you walk the path. Look at that. Campions, pink campions, bluebells, and the smell in the evenings when it's still. Oh my. Look at that.
Lovely. Another little heavenly spot with something flying around in front of my camera.
I can see that. Some little midge.
It likes the camera, it's not going away.
Obviously taking a fancy to you.
Isn't this a beautiful spot?
I love it. Over there.
I'm doing peekaboo.
Oh, hello.
How old are you?
Well, I'm going to come over with you because I've got a bit of a story about this area here.
This is stunning.
Many years ago, no bluebells were harmed in the making of this, by the way. I'm just carefully walking amongst the tulips, bluebells. Years and years ago, we'd come for a walk here in the evening, and there were three of us, Justin, my son, hubby and myself. And as we walked along the path and we came along here, we heard an owl hooting. And you know, you get owls that, you know, hunt during the day and they're predators. And I'm thinking to myself, I can hear an owl. And I'm saying to my family, listen, listen. And we're walking along the path and then, oh, there it was again, listen, listen. And we're walking along here. And then all of a sudden somebody sniggered. And up there, in the barn, in the hayrick, right up the top, was a bunch of kids doing the thing like this. I felt such a twit, but fortunately we had a really good laugh about it because they twigged that we twigged and we found out that they were up there, and these three little heads came over the top bale like this and looked down at us. So it was all right, but oh gosh, what an idiot.
Twit, twit. You know about owls doing twit and twoo, don't you? Did you know about owls doing twit and twoo? Tawny owls, I didn't realise tawny owls don't go twit twoo. Tawny owls go either twit or twoo. The male and the female have a different sound. So when you're hearing twit twoo from a tawny owl, it's two of them
talking to each other. Yeah. So she's saying to him, you're a twit, and he's saying, who? How did you start your painting? Because I didn't actually draw anything this time. I went straight into it with masking fluid and masked out my bluebells to start with. Little curly, tiny little tails on the end of each petal. So I just want to come in and introduce these little tiny bells like this on little stem. Each one's on a little stem. Now the bells that I'm painting here, these are good old-fashioned English bluebells.
I didn't really draw anything either. I think you've done yours in watercolour and I did mine in acrylic.
Oh, did you?
Yes. So I did mine just by smushing stuff all over the place. Loads of water, loads of dribbles, loads of runs and drips, and I just had great fun. I didn't want to start with any detail, and that sounds like, apart from masking out. Okay, so today's picture I'm going to take from two different references. I'm going to do a little bit of both. So this is where I'm going to be working from, kind of loosely referring to it, but not particularly strongly. I think it's probably going to be more based on this one. So here we go. So the first thing I've got to do is I'm going to use my favourite colour, which is a bit of muck off the palette. It's just some stuff left over from the demo I did a couple of days ago. So I'm just going to position where things are. I've got a path coming through there. I've got a load of stuff down there. And a load of trees. What I really want to do is to not finish this painting. I want to do this one as a kind of partial painting. So I'll start straight away, as I'm going to go on, with lots of water. Even though this is an acrylic painting, I'm just spraying my water on there. I want that to have a little bit of movement. Oh, this is fun. I like watching this happen. How did you do your background? Where did you start with that?
Well, I knew I didn't want too much darkness in the middle, and I like to have darker colour around the outer edges of a picture because I feel that it frames it.
Okay.
So I knew that I wanted light in the middle. I also knew that I wanted to use some interesting colours, so I went into the Daniel Smiths again. I'm having a love affair with this Cascade Green.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely adore the Cascade Green, and I know it works well with salt, so that the salt gave me the texture down the bottom, and in the interpretation would be these little silver flowers that we're seeing out here.
Yeah.
And then I want to come in to my corners. I'm going to drop in now some of the Cascade Green, and let's see what this can do. And you see, look, this is what I call a runner paint, because you put it in and it just explodes into the artwork. Whoosh, off it goes. Look at that, look at that. And it bleeds out into this green and the blue, and this is why I wanted my water to be pulled out, so that I knew that that paint would do that. This is a good time now to just introduce a little bit of salt. Don't want too much, so I'm going to drop some in the palm of my hand, and then I can just sprinkle it maybe in the corners down here. If you put too much on, it takes too much out, and then you land up with no colour. And I don't want that. I want to have some colour on my work. Get rid of the rest of that in the bin. And then I'm going to go to a smaller brush. So this is a number 4. And I'm going to take some of the Cascade Green, and I want to pull it and draw it right up through the work.
When it came to painting the actual bluebells, what colours did you use? You said you were Daniel Smith again.
Yeah, I went for... I started off with French ultramarine because I can see that in the blue. And I mean, have a little peekaboo there, look. You know, I could see the French ultramarine. Cobalt's a good one too, though, really, as well, isn't it? So I think that what I did in the end, because I couldn't make my mind up, I used both cobalt and French ultramarine, and I mixed them together. And then for the darks on them, I've gone quite purple for the darks. For that, I used quinacridone magenta, which is the colour of your top, really.
Yes, yeah.
And if you mix this into the blues, it gives you that purpley tinge, which is quite nice. Up here, I'm going to write in Bluebell Woods. And this is going to be my recipe. Now, choices we have, you and I, between us. I know for a fact that I want to use sap green for my grasses in front, and I'm also going to be using for the darker tone, this is Cascade Green. And it's a rather beautiful colour because it bleeds out into blue, into cerulean blue, so that's really rather fun. I'd like to use, for a bit of shading, Moonglow. So here's Moonglow. That's this rather interesting purpley colour. And regarding the flowers themselves, my choices are, I think I'm going to go for Cobalt because it's a nice clean bright blue, but that's not the colour of the Bluebells, is it? I could add something like this. This is Rose of Ultramarine. Daniel Smith colours, really rather good, as we all know. and Rose of Ultramarine is this, and if I add it into the cobalt, I could land up with quite a nice purpley blue. So that might do me. See, that's really, really quite nice, isn't it? So that could do me. I know this colour also tends to separate out, so you can land up with some nice reds and blues in there as well. But what happens if we think about maybe using cobalt blue violet? This is a different mauvey colour altogether, and that's that. So it's almost this, isn't it? So that's that colour, and then if I were to add a little bit more of the cobalt, that would give me my bluer flowers. So there's that. Two choices, but I think that the route I want to go with this is maybe I might go for that top colour. I really quite like the way that that splits and divides and granulates. So I think for this particular escapade here, I'm going to put away the cobalt blue violet and I'm going to go with this top colour. And that is, this one up here is Rose of Ultramarine. And it's added to cobalt blue. What did you go for?
Well, oddly, we both did our paintings completely separately. We weren't in contact with one another. We both said, let's do a bluebell painting. And in the background, my bluebells are quite blue. And then as I came through, I added more of magenta into it to make it more purple. But I've ended up, I used ultramarine.
Yep.
I used some cerulean, some quinacridone magenta, I can never say that word very easily, quinacridone magenta, and some white. So it's varieties, various mixes of those. But in my background, I definitely had the more blue and had the purple, more red in it as I came forward. But they're just such a unique colour. It's so difficult to get bluebell,
tricky, aren't they?
because they're not purple, they're not blue, they're not pink, but they're all of them.
Now I do need to work out my bluebell colour. In the background it's quite a soft blue colour and it gets more purple as it comes forward. So I need to make up a bit of something for my bluebell colour. So I'm going to use an intense phthalo blue and a little bit of quinacridone magenta. So let me show you this. So I've got my intense blue, my quinacridone magenta, which is a very powerful colour, a bit more of my blue, so I get this in the distance. That's more the sort of colour I want, and I will make it more of the magenta as I come forward, but I also want it a little bit paler, so it's more blue in the background and more magenta as we come forward. This isn't about painting bluebells at this stage, it's just little splashes of colour, little smudges really. I'm just going to pop a touch more of the magenta in as I come forward. Yeah, I like that. I'm going to wash my brush out, pick up a bit more of my greens, and do a bit of smudging with some green. So I'm just picking up bits of leftover colour that I had from earlier on. some different, slightly darker bluebells that are in the shadow. There's going to be little patches of lights and darks within my bluebells. Just because I want this to be a thing, I'm putting some paint down here. I want the bluebell colour to run as well. And as a contrast to that, I can make a lighter colour for my bluebells. Again, I'm just adding some white into it and just contrast into those a little bit. Oh, the battery's gone now. Great. I think that's time for breakfast.
Your way through. So here we go. Skirt. I'm going to have a go at two at once here. I'm just showing off, seeing if I can do it. Come into my mauvey colour, drop that in. And be warned, because these are all colours that just rush into each other. They love each other very much. And they just pour into each other as though they're embracing long lost friends. And that's good, isn't it? Because if you know that your paints do that, you can use that then to your benefit. Know what your paints do, because if you don't, that could take you by surprise, seriously, when you least want it to. So around there like that, put it in. I've got a bit of granulation going on here, which is quite nice, that's fun. To here now, I'm coming down into the darker area now, so does that make me think? Make those paler, make them stand out. Let's see what happens. If it doesn't work, we can always go back, we could do something else. You can make them darker. But that area there is in the dark. Let's see how we go. Pull the purpley pink up through into there. Clean brush, go in, just manipulate it a bit. Push the blue back, pull a bit of light into it. As long as your paint's shiny and still working, you can move things around. Now you see I've lost the bottom of that, so what we're going to have to do now is think again. Don't ever be frightened of thinking again. And that's the purpley pink. So I've come in on the bottom now with that, and I'm just going to make that a bit darker. Does that stand out better? Yes, it does. And how about the green? I use sap green.
I was using a mixture of greens. I don't think I had any sap green, so I was using ultramarine and lemon.
Okay, that's a nice
to give
mixture.
me a
Yes,
green.
Yeah.
I also had some, I've got a colour in my acrylics that I adore, and it's called green black.
Oh, that sounds interesting, everybody, doesn't it?
Really interesting colour. It's that, you know, the shadow in greens. It's really, really dark. So I use that, and that with some lemon yellow gives you some interesting greens.
Yeah, I bet.
And I was also adding a little bit of yellow ochre or burnt raw sienna into
I like
it,
raw sienna,
because that makes it more olive, because it's got red in it as well. So where I didn't want it to be quite so bright, I was using those colours. But yeah, I was actually using a colour that's a bit like a cadmium yellow light, and I can never pronounce it. Do you know the name of this? It's called something like Emerald yellow, Almarel. I can't pronounce it. It's yellow.
Well, there's something to go and look for, isn't it?
Yeah.
I wonder what that is.
Yeah,
I'll
if you've had a couple of gins, there's no.
You'd probably pronounce it properly if you had a few gins.
It's a lovely colour.
Okay. Well, we need to look that up because we need to have it on the materials list, don't we?
Oh God, I got a materials list. I don't generally do materials, just paint. Just knock off the palette.
Oh, I've gotten clever with that. You know what I do afterwards? When I've finished painting, I put everything that I've painted with on a tray, and I don't put it away until I've actually written it all down so that you've got the right materials. Because you walk away and you forget, don't you?
Yeah, it's what paint I had in my palette at the time was the colour I used.
Yes.
And I've shown you my palette in the video.
Yeah. So you stand no chance, really.
Yellow.
Yellow.
It's a light yellow, so it would be
dear.
something equivalent. The particular one I was using was Atelier Interactive.
Oh, okay.
So I will give you the name of it.
Yeah.
We can put it out
We
there.
just can't say it.
No, but it's the equivalent of something like cadmium yellow light.
Oh, okay.
Something like that. So it's
Yeah,
kind
nice.
of
A
a
bright
quite
colour.
bright,
Yeah.
acidic
Yeah.
yellow, and I use that a lot in the background
Yeah.
to get the sort of sunlight on the trees in the
And
distance.
crikey, let's face it, this time of year, acidic colours, that really is the way to describe it, because if you look behind us, the green on the trees and the green of the foliage when it's all new and bright and
It's very
beautiful
fresh,
at this
isn't
time
it?
of year, very bright. Things get darker and duller, don't they, as the summer goes by.
Grey down.
And by the beginning of autumn, sort of September time, things are kind of looking a bit jaded. Poor old trees have had enough. They always look as though they could do with a good go in the washing machine, don't they?
Oh, bless them. Bless them.
Oh dear. So you did this lovely dripping
Yes.
idea on your pattern.
Now my trees at the top here are very, very much lighter, so I've got I think it's I don't know how to pronounce it, Emerald, it's a light yellow anyway. A very acid yellow. I love the way they run through one another as well.
On your painting. Stop. You created this lovely dripping idea in your painting, didn't you? I mean,
Yes.
has that technique got a name?
No.
No, it's just drippage.
Yes, drippage. I just decided I quite like drips within the paintings, and I often will put them in and then paint over them, so they're kind of there and not there sometimes. But on this one, when I did this, I just thought it added something to the painting for the painting to not be finished.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I know what you mean. It also gives your eyes something else to look at, doesn't it? And it kind of gives a bit of movement in a very static picture, doesn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
Let's have a look at it here. I was very interested to note that you didn't do that last. Now, I had always assumed, and when I'm painting myself, I tend to do the drippage very last thing.
Okay.
You didn't.
No, I started with the drippage as the first thing I did. I put some colour down and sprayed it, and then as I was going through the painting, every now and then I'd put another colour on and spray it. And then when I put the bluebells in, which was quite near the end of the painting, I actually put the blues in and the purples in, and then sprayed it again. So that all ran through. So yeah, it was just,
I like it.
Yeah,
it was
very
nice.
different.
Yes.
Mm.
I went the other route. You got your distance by making things, the bluebells, bluer to push them back, and bringing the more magenta colours forward. I used the splash technique. So
Okay.
when it was still wet and damp, I knew then that if I splashed and flicked onto the painting, that it would diffuse, so that pushes it away. And then when it was dry, I flicked again, so I had definite dots on the picture.
It's beautiful.
And so that brings it a bit closer.
Something else I absolutely adored in yours, and I've seen you do it on several paintings, it's so effective, is not only did you put the salt down, but you sprinkled some gold powder on there.
Love the gold powder.
It adds another texture to
Yeah,
it, another dimension.
Really,
it's beautiful.
really handy, that, yes.
Can we have a little look at it?
So we can do that whilst it's all still wet. I can come in with this. Now this, all you've got to do with this is pop your brush in the end of the paint, the powder, and then just have a bit of sprinkle. I don't want too much, I just want to give the impression of a few glittery bits in these fairy woods. We need to get it off the end of the brush, otherwise we're going to land up looking as though we have been glitzed and blitzed. So let's take that off there like that. All I want to do now, it's drying, slowly it's drying. So with my number 4 brush, I want to do something through here. I'm going to take blue, let's take the cobalt blue, and I'm going to add a little bit of this purpley colour to it. And I'm just going to come in and through this middle area where we might expect to see bluebells growing, we're dropping in some extra bluebells. You can put some out to the side where the paper's dry or damp, and that will give you a bit of an interesting side to your picture. It carries it through, but that gives us the impression of extra bluebells through in the woods. Talking about Denise's drippage,
You're calling me a drip?
No,
I resemble that comment.
Of course I'm not. And I will deny it vociferously when it's in newspapers on Sunday.
We've got evidence.
Denise has unfinished her picture in the bottom, as you've seen, and the drips have come through, but the rest of the picture comes up to the edges, so the picture is complete in that respect. I wanted mine to be more of a vignette, so I faded the whole thing out around the outer edges. I quite like doing that nowadays. I didn't used to, always used to go up to the edges, but I quite like the idea that you can go into it and
delve
have a
in.
look. Yeah,
I quite fancied, and although it's the bottom corner that I didn't finish, and I have finished the rest.
Oh, listen, a red kite. Did you hear that?
Although I've not finished the bottom corner, I quite fancy the idea of not finishing the opposite corner, so it looks like a strip torn. The painting would be a strip across the middle, torn out. I quite like that idea, as again, that's almost like you're kind of sneaking through a gap somewhere and seeing this view. So again, it's another way of doing a vignette.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, that would be quite a nice technique to use, to paint the picture and to but to tear the strip out, not straight across, but as you've done on the slant, and then put that on another piece of paper. You could actually find a nice piece of blue, or this colour, and put it on top, couldn't you?
Lots of different
or
ways
even
of... paint
that background with the mixture colour.
Now, ideas. See, this is one of the things that we both so love about the comments that we get, and we love your comments, so please do comment on the video, is we'll say one thing
and then somebody comes back to us, oh, that made me think of such and such, and then we go off in another direction. So it really means an awful lot to us when you put your comments on, and we love you for it. Thank you.
It's fabulous.
Slightly darker bluebells that are in the shadow. There's going to be little patches of lights and darks within my bluebells. Just because I want this to be a thing, I'm putting some paint down here. I want the bluebell colour to run as well. And as a contrast to that, I can make a lighter colour for my bluebells. Again, just adding some white into it, and just contrast into those a little bit. Oh, the battery's gone now. Great. I think that's time for breakfast.
Whilst we've been sitting here talking, you've seen all the little
Yes.
bits floating through. There's a willow here, and of course the catkins in the heat have burst. And as we're talking, all these little bits keep coming through. You had a couple of pieces settle on your
I
face.
was trying not to brush
Yeah.
them off in the middle of
Yeah.
the filming. Well, it's either catkins coming across, or we have little angels with us.
Oh, that's nice, isn't it?
I had angels settling on my face.
That's really pretty. That's nice.
Yeah. So we've had a lovely morning in the sunshine, coming through the Bluebell Woods, having a look. We've taken lots of pictures. We're going to be doing more, I think. I'm talking about the paintings that we created. But if you would like to see...
It's on your nose.
It was just landed on the end of my nose.
Keep going. Be professional, darling.
Yes, I can do this. If you would like to see the full videos of how we created the paintings in question, we've both put them out on our own personal YouTube channels. So my one is Denise Allen Fine Art, and we'll have links to this in the show notes as well. And
Yeah. Just look for Sharon Hurst.
And we've got all of our full tuition of the creation of these paintings in there if you want to sit and watch the whole thing. But we really hope you've enjoyed coming through the woods with us. It's been a delight.
Absolutely. One other thing to say, that the stills that we've taken, here in the woods, I'm sure Denise will agree with me, you help yourself if you want to and have a go yourselves if you'd like to. The only proviso there is we'd love to see what you're up to and what you're doing.
Absolutely.
You can get hold of both of us through our websites and email us. We'd love to see what you're up to and what you're painting. I think what we'll do, everybody, for your convenience, we'll put the stills up on the Travelling Brush Dippers page on Facebook, and then that will allow you to be able to go and lift them for yourselves and to have a paint with those. Because that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's sharing with each other and enjoying our hobby together.
And inspiring.
And being inspired and inspiring. Absolutely. So for now, we'd like to thank you so much for coming and joining the Travelling Brush Dippers again. I hope you come back for our next journey. And in the meantime, why don't you
Dip into our conversation.
Bye.
See ya.